Okay, guys, so far we talked about adaptation, we learned something about overtraining, we talked about strength training and endurance training. So the last one is speed. Speed is very tricky. See, it's dependent on central nervous system, dependent on genetics, dependent on muscle system. But it is also dependent on something else. So therefore, I would say that speed is just halfly conditional abilities. Probably by the end, you will understand why I said so. So, because speed is extremely complex. You can actually buy a book about strength training. Lot of books. You can buy a lot of books on endurance training as well. Have you ever seen training on speed? Not so much, and maybe most of them are sport specific, like speed training of soccer, speed training of ice hockey or whatever. But very rarely you can find a book about general speed. Why? You will find out very soon why. But when we talk about speed, we first talk about the appearance of speed. And this is what you can see here. When we talk about speed, we also talk about reaction time, such as simple reaction time. This is the time which elapses between the signal and the start of the movement, such as a 100-meter sprint. There's a shot and then the time between the start of the movement. This is about 0.15 milliseconds or so. If we have a complex reaction time, we have to choose from different kind of signals to the appropriate one. If you have to choose from different signals, naturally the reaction time is increasing in a relation with the number of alternative signals. So these two, generally I would say, dependent on, maybe strictly, on the central nervous system, dependent on arousal, dependent on attention, dependent on focusing. Naturally, you can train it. We can say that male and female reaction time is a bit different. Males have better reaction time, they are faster. And we can also say that the reaction time is improving up to the age of 18, and age of over 30 it starts to decline. So there's a U-shaped curve. Kids have higher reaction time, then the reaction time is decreasing, getting better, and then over the age of 30 start to increase and get worse and worse. Movement speed. Movement speed is the ability how fast you can execute a movement, such as jumping, such as throwing, such as an attack, stretching your hand, and so on. So movement speed will be dependent on explosive strength. Isn't it interesting? We are talking about speed, but I would say movement speed will be a result of explosive strength. How strong are you? How much fast fibers are you have? How you can activate your fast fibers. And one very interesting point also, it will be dependent on the technique. Yes, technique. So it's pretty interesting when we are talking about speed. I would say speed is dependent on explosive strength and would be dependent on the quality of technical execution. Locomotorial speed means you change your place, such as it's a kind of cyclic event, like walking, running, cycling, swimming, kayak, and so on, rowing. This is locomotorial speed. Naturally here, the economy of the movement will be important, the technique will be important, and depending on the intensity, the duration, fiber types will be also important. Acceleration means how fast you can reach your maximal speed. We know from Newton that this is dependent on strength. If you get greater force, then you can accelerate faster. Therefore, in case of acceleration, one of the most important points is to improve explosive strength. Strange. Natural technique, depending on what we are accelerating, will be important, but the strength is important. Look at sprinters, how muscular they are. Why? Because strength is crucial to increase the weight, the body mass in a certain degree. Look at hammer throwers. When they have to accelerate the hammer, they need a big force. Javelin, it's much lighter. You don't have to have such a great muscle mass and strength and necessary at heavier objects. Acceleration and deceleration. Deceleration means how rapidly you can decrease your speed. These two are extremely important at ball games when you change the direction from one direction to the other one. Speed up and then brake and curb your activity. So acceleration and deceleration, the most important point is explosive strength. So when we talk about fencing also, this is extremely important. So explosive strength would be crucial for acceleration and deceleration. Learning speed. Learning speed, how rapidly you can improve the quality of the technique. Huh? Yes, it affects the speed of the movement. So if you have a lot of memory, a lot of different kind of experience, then naturally the learning speed will be faster and better. So this is the reason why at young age, when your brain is very, very plastic, need a lot of different types of exercise, experience, because then later on you can have a benefit of this when you are learning new movements, new techniques. So learning speed is extremely important. And decision speed is also belongs to speed. How fast, how efficiently you can make decision and then select the best alternatives. Naturally, learning speed and decision speed would be extremely important in all of the ball games. When you are building up tactic, then when you change the tactic during the progress of the game, how to do that, how to make the best decision, how to select the teammates to whom you would like to pass the ball. So these kind of decisions are extremely important. And this actually depends again on your central nervous system and depends on the experience that you have had earlier. So how to improve the speed? Speed is very much dependent on two factors, as I mentioned to you earlier. Explosive strength, which is strictly, I would say, conditional abilities, and it will be dependent on technique of the movement, which is a coordinational ability, Hence, you have to improve these two when we are talking about speed. So, but when and how? For technique, the best period is quite young age, even before 6 to 12 years old. You have to have a lot of different kind of movement experience, different sports, hopefully. And you can really master the technique. And from the age of 16, you have to pay attention to improve explosive strength. Naturally, you can do it earlier as well, using the own body weight and some simple exercise, naturally sprints and so on. But using an additional load, you have to wait a little bit. Why? Because of the maturation, pretty late maturation of bone and muscular system, and which is dependent on naturally the hormonal system, growth hormone and testosterone level as well, and the development of muscles are very pronounced at the age of 16. It's up to the age of 20 probably in some cases, and depending on the climate and strain and so on. But I would say you can use different kind of loads from the age of 16. And then you can never say that you have a perfect technique. You always have to mix up the improvement of strength and technique. And this is a very fine tuning that must be done throughout the athlete's career. When and how can we improve the strengths? First of all, you have to do it at the beginning of the training, and you can do efficient speed training when you are fit. Naturally, you can improve the muscle mass when you are tired. You can improve the endurance when you are not completely recovered from the previous exercise. But in case of speed, when you have to perform every movement with the possible maximal possible speed, then you have to be fit physically, mentally, and your cognitive fitness must be also perfect. So a lot of attention is necessary. You have to exclude all of the noise which can interfere. At the beginning of the training session, after warming up, proper warming up, you have to avoid massive fatigue. Fatigue is important, but we have to understand that if we are concentrating on fast twitch fibers are very sensitive to fatigue. And therefore, after very few repetitions, even though the load is small, but you have to work with maximal speed. Do not do many repetitions, because then the speed will suffer. The velocity of the movement will drop significantly. So try to avoid massive fatigue. You need motivation. And competition is extremely good motivation. So competition is one of the best training to improve speed. You have to focus on, you have to always measure, because then you get the motivation to do it better and better and better. And naturally, you have to improve your technical skills. There is an example I'm always telling my students, that very famous American discus thrower, very famous. He won 4 Olympic gold medals at discus throwing, and he said after winning the 3rd Olympic championships that he has technical problems. So nobody has a perfect technique. Not even Messi, not even Cristiano Ronaldo. So Everybody can do better. So technique is never perfect. So speed, genetics, technical skills, and explosive strength. So this is the reason why you cannot find a book about speed, well, not so many books, because of the importance of technical execution. So the books on speed are always, generally are sport-specific books, because technique is crucial. So, thank you very much for your attention, and please do not forget to read the book. Thank you.